First qualifying session for 7 months has thrown up some familiar results and some interesting surprises for tomorrow's race. We've got all the reaction from qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix here on the Formula One Grid Talk. Welcome back to the Formula One Grid Talk podcast. We are powered by F1 Chronicle. Visit f1chronicle.com for news, reviews and opinions on all things F1. Hosting today will be me, George Howson, and joining me today are sports journalist Louis Edwards.
Hello.
Motorsports fanatic Rhys Evans.
Hello.
And engineering student Owain Medford.
Oh.
So lads, fair to say some surprises and some things we kind of saw coming. I'll start with you, Owain. I'm sure you're very pleased about the result today. Valtteri Bottas ahead of Lewis Hamilton, making it a Mercedes 1-2 in Austria.
Yeah, it just seems Bottas is faster around that track in a Mercedes. Absolutely a blinder of a lap. He got the result he needed, and that obviously secured him the pole. Obviously, he had an incident later which prevented anyone else but Lewis Hamilton from going any faster, and that secured his pole. He's done a good job there.
Yeah, definitely. 3 pole positions for Valtteri Bottas, which I think is a joint record around Spielberg. But yeah, Louis, potentially Lewis Hamilton could have got, I think it's 89th pole in the sport today, but Bottas did a faster lap first, and then Hamilton just couldn't quite match it with his run in the end. But it might not have counted anyway, thanks to Bottas going off at turn 4.
Yeah, I think Lewis said in his after race interview that it didn't affect his second run too much. I think it was a bit scrappy. He definitely especially around the final corner, he did take a little too much curve, and I think that would have definitely scrubbed quite a few hundredths of a second off his time. But, it was close. It was close. And, yeah, you definitely have to commend Bottas for the job he did. And it's certainly going to be interesting what the two Mercedes do tomorrow.
Yeah, 12 thousandths of a second was all that separated at the end between Bottas and Hamilton. And potentially we could have some interesting running from the third place man, Max Verstappen, Rhys. He's won the last 2 races around here. He's been tipped by a few of us to win the race tomorrow. And he's starting on the medium tyres as well.
Yeah, that was the main thing I took from it. Just a strategy department firing on all cylinders. Operationally, when they went out in Q2 and just did it on the mediums and then tried to cover themselves if that lap wasn't quick enough, and then he just backed off at the end. But props to them for doing something different. There's a question mark tomorrow about whether it will work or whether Mercedes are just miles ahead. But that's definitely what I'm looking forward to. The Mercedes just looks like it's on rails. I think they were 3 tenths faster than they were last year. It just doesn't look like there's any chinks in their armour at all. And it's quite worrying for everybody else because it's like their Mercedes are keeping them at an arm's length. So quite ominous as well when, the lap here is only 65 seconds and they're already like half a second in front of Verstappen, which is pretty worrying, to be honest.
Yeah, half a second in qualifying. Two Mercedes are ahead of the rest of the pack. It's a huge gap, quite frankly, especially on such a short lap. But you never know. Race pace and qualifying pace are 2 different things. Maybe the Red Bulls set up more for the race. Definitely got a better race tyre on Max Verstappen at least. But yeah, we have to mention as well, like there's been a big shake-up in the order thanks to a certain red team not really performing this week, but we will get onto that shortly. But yeah, Lando Norris, Owain, in 4th place in qualifying, his best qualifying ever. Very happy day for McLaren fans. 4th and 8th for him and Sainz. Yeah,
absolutely excellent performance from those two. Helps in some ways, I think, just due to obviously Bottas is off. But yeah, absolutely. You still got to put it there to start with, and to go ahead of Albon, who's in probably a faster car, as Verstappen has proved. To put it significantly ahead of Sainz is a good effort. I'm glad for McLaren there.
Yeah, Norris 4 tenths ahead of Sainz in qualifying, 3 tenths ahead of Alexander Albon in 5th. Decent effort by the tyre driver in qualifying today. But, we shouldn't be too surprised, Louis. We did kind of predict it, but very good day for Racing Point. 6th for Sergio Perez and 9th for Lance Stroll. Both cars in Q3 for, I don't even know when the last time, first time in their history probably of being called Racing Point.
Yeah, the incredible achievement from, them. It was going to be an interesting battle in qualifying anyway. We knew that it would be like Racing Point versus McLaren and potentially Renault. But I think they didn't do as well as they possibly could have because they definitely looked quicker in Q1 and Q2 than McLaren. And maybe even in, third practice, they looked a lot quicker than McLaren. Yeah, it's all the more credit to, both Lando and Sainz, what they did, but not taking away anything from, Perez or Stroll. They did incredibly well, and I just don't think they were able to sort of just get those last few tenths out of the car in the final qualifying sessions. I think they were both slower than their Q2 laps. But it'll definitely be interesting to see what they can do tomorrow. Their race pace looks quite good. A good position for them to be in.
Yeah, brilliant for them. I mean, the Pink Panthers could be real dark horses tomorrow, especially with Sergio Perez's tyre-saving ability as well. I mean, you wouldn't rule him out for a podium, really, especially with how displaced the Ferraris are, Rhys. I mean, I say displaced, though. I mean, they've qualified 7th and 11th, Leclerc ahead of Vettel. But quite frankly, they're exactly where they deserve to be. They didn't miss out because of, a bad run or whatever. They're just slow.
Yeah, it was a big shock, wasn't it? Vettel out in Q2. Every year you hope that maybe this is going to be the year that they can challenge Mercedes, and then just really struggling, particularly with their one lap pace. We'll see tomorrow if their long runs are any better, but to be behind McLaren and Racing Point, they're going to get torn to shreds by the Italian press, and the health of that team as well. With now they've got now that Vettel's leaving and he's not going to be playing ball, and yeah, it's just really unfortunate. I think a lot of people are disappointed with them, but that's just how difficult Formula One is.
Yeah, absolutely. You stand still in Formula One and you move backwards, and they've definitely moved backwards. I mean, they don't have any updates on the car from pre-season testing. But interestingly, I've actually looked a bit into this. Charles Leclerc was 6 or 7 tenths slower in qualifying this year than he was last year, with different conditions and all this and that, obviously. But that is a massive loss. That is a huge amount of time. If he did his qualifying time that he did last year, he would have got 3rd today. Instead, he's 7th. But yeah, looking further down the grid, Daniel Ricciardo, Owain, he was 10th, and Esteban Ocon 14th. Slightly disappointing for Renault, but obviously points are given out tomorrow, not today.
Yeah, if I was Renault, I'd be disappointed. Well, as disappointed, bearing in mind, obviously, the Ferrari trouble. And, you'd have thought they maybe could have get a bit further up there. Didn't deliver on their first lapping. Well, Ricciardo didn't deliver on his first lap in Q3. And obviously, Ocon, didn't set the world alight with a 14th. It's a little disappointing, to be honest. Ocon hasn't driven an F1 car for 2 years. So, to be fair, I'd actually give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there. But bearing in mind, Renault did come to Austria with their 2018 car recently, and they completed a lot of mileage just to get their eye in. It's a little weird that they're not higher up. You'd have thought that they'd have just sort of a bit more of an awareness. They know where you can get the time by doing race distances. You would have thought they'd have picked that up, and to get 10th and 14th isn't so good. In comparison, obviously some teams have moved up and others have moved down, but it's just weird.
Yeah, a little bit disappointing for them, but I mean, at least Ricciardo's qualified a Ferrari. That's something I'm sure he'll take a lot of pleasure in. Decent performance today by Alfa Tauri, Louis. I mean, 12th and 13th for Gasly and Kvyat, about where you'd expect them to be.
Yeah, it really is just where you'd expect them to be. Solid Q2 performance. Yeah, not really much you can say about them. We sort of didn't have much expectation coming into the season of what they were going to do, what they were going to achieve. Then they sort of turned up and just not blown us away, or not sort of made anyone doubt their thing. It's just a very average performance from them.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be happy with that, and there's definitely potential for them to score points in the race. Now, I think a team that will be a bit disappointed, Rhys, Haas, Grosjean 15th, Kevin Magnussen 16th. Obviously, they've probably got ahead on top of the issues they had last year in the race, but the one lap pace not really here for them today.
No, Grosjean P15. Yeah, again, just going backwards. I mean, they've had last year, I don't think was that good for them in Austria either. And perhaps I think Magnussen got held up in Q1 a little bit. Maybe if he'd made it into Q2, he could have got ahead of Grosjean, but that car just doesn't look quick, does it? Yeah, just more frustration for them after a disappointing year last year. That's what it looks like for the rest of the season.
Yeah, they're about where we expect them to be, but obviously they would have hoped to mix it up with the Renaults and the Alfa Tauris a bit more. But a man I think who will be a bit happy, I mean, I think this year he's got a car where he can really show how talented he is, Wayne, is George Russell. He managed to get 17th place in the Williams today. His teammate back at the grid, but after a nasty crash in FP3, but thankfully him and the car both all right. But yeah, 6/10 gap between Russell and Latifi. I think that really shows the talent that Russell has.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. There's a bit of familiarity there, obviously, that Russell has, but it's not 6/10 worth. Yeah, he's an absolute blinder. He's qualified ahead of the Alfa Romeos, and put a solid distance in the same car as Latifi. That will help, and obviously, puts them up significantly further up the grid than they were previously. I don't know whether Latifi's flagging a bit. I don't know whether that shunt in last practice might have sort of got to him a little bit. But yeah, Russell's done an absolutely brilliant job, and hopefully he can outshine his car, as all the greats do, and show what he's made of.
Yeah, I think Latifi probably is a bit cautious after that. I don't really blame him, to be honest with you. It's his first crash in an F1 car, his first weekend, a lot of pressure on him at the end of the day. But it probably also shows how quick Russell is. We know how fast he is. But a team that'll be very disappointed, Louis. And I mean, this is a track that probably should suit their cars. Alfa Romeo, Giovinazzi 18th, Kimi Raikkonen 19th. I mean, we kind of expect him to be towards the back of the grid, but seeing it like that behind a Williams, they'll be very disappointed after today.
Yeah, it was not a great day all round for Ferrari-powered cars, and Alfa Romeo were just sort of it was not a it was really unfortunate that they've not been able to extract much from that car. Their pre-season testing sort of pace didn't look great, but we didn't think it was going to be this bad. So it's going to be a bit of a slog for them tomorrow if they're going to sort of gain any positions. Points are probably going to be out of the question. But you never know. Anything could happen. You never know.
You never know. The Iceman could put on a show for us, and Giovinazzi as well. Man, he's a talented driver. I think Giovinazzi might well beat Raikkonen this year overall in points. Big call by me, but I think it's definitely possible. I think Raikkonen's probably potentially a bit past his best, at least. He's 41 this year, though. It can be forgiven. Finally, Rhys, just want to touch on Mercedes and their DAS system. We don't want to go too much in detail. We've already covered it on the show. But obviously, Red Bull, after FP2, did put a complaint in to the FIA, did put a protest in to try and get the system banned. But the FIA, once again, have said, no, it's legal and you can have it for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that wasn't surprising, was it? I don't think it's the last we've heard of it. I think I read somewhere that Red Bull might have a system. They might actually have something like that in Austria already to put on the car. There's the question, though, it's a mechanical device that changes the toe, but I think Red Bull made a good point that they're breaking Parc Fermé rules, and where does that fall? Is that allowed? So I think they just wanted clarification on it. I don't think it's the last we've heard of it, as I don't think it's the last we've heard about the whole Ferrari engine thing. I think these are stories that are going to carry on through the season. Although saying that, there doesn't seem to be a massive impetus to develop systems for other teams to follow suit. It just seems to be like an advantage with tyre warm-up and stuff like that. So, yeah, as I said, I don't think it's the last we've heard of it.
What do you guys think? Let us know on Twitter at F1 Chronicle. Tweet us whether you think the DAS system should be legal or not. But the fact is, it is legal and it will be legal for the rest of this season. And no doubt teams like Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, they'll all at least attempt to copy it this year. But next year it will be banned. It won't be a part of the sport. But either way, it's definitely helped Mercedes. I mean, the advantage they have over the field is it's reminiscent of seasons like 2014. It's a big gap. But you never know. The race is 71 laps, not just one, so we could see some big surprises tomorrow. But let's just be honest here, it's just great to have Formula One back. It's great to have it back this weekend. I'm really looking forward to it tomorrow, despite the naysayers saying, oh, it's a Mercedes 1-2, it's boring. But it doesn't matter. It's racing action. That's what we want. That's what we're all here for. And
I think... Sorry.
No, go on, mate. It's all right.
Yeah, and I mean, as disappointing as it will be if Mercedes are that far ahead, the battle between Racing Point and McLaren looks really tasty, particularly like Perez and Albon, I think. So that upper midfield, I think, will be very interesting tomorrow and hopefully for the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll be interested to see how Lance Stroll does in a car this good because, he's, apart from maybe his first season with Williams, he's not really had a great car, and people do kind of write him off just because he's a rich kid, because he's a paid driver and all that. But I don't think he's as bad as what people say. It'd be interesting to see how he does against Perez. Obviously, Perez out-qualifying him today, but race is another thing as well. Stroll tends to start quite well as well. But yeah, so we will bring you all the action from tomorrow's Austrian Grand Prix on the Grid Talk. Apologies to people trying to tune into Twitch. We've had some technical difficulties. Hopefully get it sorted out for tomorrow, where we'll have a live show for you guys. If not, you'll be able to catch us on the usual platforms on YouTube, the F1 Chronicle website, of course, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, Omni Studio, Pocket Cast. Just search for the F1 Grid Talk on there. And yes, of course, we also have the Patreon account too, if you wish to donate to the show. Or if you want to support us by getting merchandise, we've got mugs, we've got shirts as well with some famous Formula One phrases on them. And thank you, lads. Thank you for joining us on this show today.
No worries.
No problem.
And we'll be back with a review of the Austrian Grand Prix tomorrow. Who will win? Will it be Bottas? Will it be Hamilton? Could it even be Max Verstappen? We don't know. We'll see. Okay. See you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.